Yo, what's going on, everybody? Give me one moment. Things are. Sam is struggling here, guys. Sam is struggling with this whole live tech stuff. So give me a moment, guys. We just a few tech difficulties we need to get handled. So bear with me. It's gonna take like 30 seconds. And meanwhile, do me a favor. Go and tell your homies to show up. If you know a closer or someone who's just getting started who doesn't have a ton of money, but they've got time and they're willing to crush it in this industry, do me a favor and get them on here because today's going to be a dope one because I really get to expand on how I started and how I basically compounded 5 years of learning into, less than 6 months. So I think I'm working this out. Just so you guys know, it's weird the camera's not wanting to hook up properly. So give me one moment. Aha. I think I found out what went wrong. Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Let's see if this works. Click this, click that. I think we're here. Matt Munson, what's up, dude? Matt, do me a favor. Can you see me? Is my camera working? Do you guys get me on your end? I think you guys do. Yeah, sweet. Okay. Okay, guys, thank you for being on today. Today's going to be one of those cool episodes where it's just me. Not that I love the episodes with all the other guys too, but episodes with me on it are just I think kind of fun because I get to ramble and shit talk and tell you guys the Sam Singh approach to things, which is usually really kind of blunt and funny enough. Every time I do it, I think people can appreciate how I talk about certain things. And so today's episode is going to be, I did a Q&A on Instagram and I basically said, hey guys, today's going to be another solo episode with just Sam because Marlon is out, frolicking, as Marlon does across the country. And so he said, hey Sam, can you go ahead and just hold it down? Can you go ahead and just do a solo Sam episode today? And I'm like, yeah, sure. But I had no idea what I wanted to talk about. So like any responsible adult, I let social media decide what I'm going to do with my life. And so I put up a Q&A and all of social media decided they wanted to hear more about, not all, but most. I think that the biggest kind of question I kept getting was, how did you get started and how did you crush it as a closer and like have the rapid success that I did? And so I want to hit on that a lot today and give people like a roadmap because I think these are things that I tend to personally override, or personally I tend to go over them really quickly and not slow them down and not talk about the fine nuances of how I maneuver these things because I love talking to CEOs and business owners that I tend to lose some of the people who are just trying to get started and just trying to get their first couple of deals or get their first level of traction. So today is going to be really heavy on me breaking down how I got started, how I got traction, most importantly how I did it with no money. And so you guys saw it in the title, you saw it in the descriptions, you guys have seen me talk about it every now and then. In my 4th month of the game, I made $125,250 in a 30-day time span. That wasn't in 4 months of time. That was in my 4th month. So in that month alone, in those 30 days alone, that's what we made. And the key to all of that is that I spent $0 out of my own pocket to make those assignment fees. And 4 months prior, I had never even done a deal before. 4 months prior, I had never actually properly comped to property. I had never underwritten a house. I had probably never even talked to a seller 4 months prior. So how do we go from point A to point B in such a short time? Because a lot of times people get to 6-figure months, but it takes them 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get to 6-figure months. And then I started hitting 6-figure months in my 4th month of real estate. And the fun fact is that catapulted, it acted like this massive catalyst, and it allowed me to just really kind of skyrocket really, really fast. And I had all of these peers around me who were doing really well, and they were all coming up. And that month was this huge trajectory shift for me, because it, in a very like up and coming time phase, gave me the resources and the experience and the money that I needed to go and invest heavily in the business and skyrocket past a lot of my peers. And so it's kind of an interesting thing that I don't think people talk about enough. And the key is leverage. So the key is leverage. So if anyone is watching and you're like a newer closer, like I would love to bring you onto the screen so I could chat with you, because like this avatar is specifically me talking to Sam like 3 years ago. And Sam 3 years ago had a ton of time. He had no money and he actually had no experience, but he was able to leverage like an innate personal skill set to bring a lot of value to the marketplace and making a ton of money. So if you are newer and you think like being a closer is going to be the route for you, 100% let me know. I would love to bring you on the screen. And after like I'm done kind of just ranting or preaching, I want to work specifically and help you guys get a game plan that's specific to you. So, and oh my God, I really feel like we're going to like speed through today because I talk really fast. Okay. So, I'll start with this. I came into this industry with obviously no money, but I came into this industry with a high aptitude. Sorry guys, Lily is here. Hi, Lily. I came into this industry with a high aptitude for personal skills and a high natural aptitude for talking to people and getting really good at talking to people and getting people to really like me. Lily, what are you? Lily doesn't like it when she's like, Dad, you're talking and there's no one next to you and you're not talking to anybody. Like freaks her out. And she doesn't realize that all of you guys are on the other side of the screen. I have more dogs showing up. Wow, this is gonna be crazy. Give me one sec, guys. Let me do this. I'm gonna open up a door for the dogs. I'll be right back. Okay, you know what? Let's turn this light on too. Okay. And if you guys see all this happening behind me with the curtains, that's Lily being Lily. Lily, come here. Come here. Okay, away, because you are glaring out my screen. Come on. Come on. Go. Thank you, sweetheart. I should really stop doing live streams with my dogs around. Okay, so long story short, guys, I graduated grad school and I was coming from a different industry where we had to do a lot of talking to people and we had to do a lot of, I would say, negotiation. I would say a lot of negotiation and getting people to basically get on our side and like us, right? Terrible. Lily, can you not? I'm trying to teach the people how to make money. Okay, come on. Sorry, guys. This is Daisy. Hi, Daisy. Okay, so the key for me, guys, was leveraging a skill set, right? When you don't have time or when you don't have money, which is, I would say, the majority of people who are just getting started. And how do I know they don't have money? Because they're getting into the industry to try to learn how to make money. So when you don't have money and you were like me, you were young and you graduated grad school and you could live broke as shit and really come in with a lot of time and energy, right? The key then is, okay. The key is to leverage a skill set that you may or may not have. And if you don't have the skill set, you have to attain the skill set. And if you have the skill set, you need to work on refining it, making it a fine-tuned product. And a lot of people don't realize that in the world of the marketplace, we all bring in a product. Okay. And very often your skill set is the product that you bring to the marketplace. It is the thing that allows you to get into deals and get into transactions. So for me, I knew that I had a really high aptitude for talking to people and getting people to like me and sounding really good over the phone. And because as one of my buddies made it very clear to me, he kind of gives me a lot of crap for this. He's like, Sam, you sound like Captain America from a frat party. And so it sounds good enough on the phone and it makes me a good salesman. And so what I did is I understood that I didn't have the money to spend on cold callers. I didn't have the money to spend on PPC or PPL or direct mail or all these stupid things. And heck, even if I had the money to spend on them, it would have been the dumbest thing for me to do because you don't know what you don't know. And optimizing a PPC campaign when you're new is the stupidest thing you can do, right? Trying to hire cold callers and run a sales team that's overseas. Run a sales team that's overseas when you've never been in a leadership position, in business is a recipe for disaster. There you go. So for me, it was really important to leverage the skill set of sales because it's something I was naturally acclimated to. And here's what I did. I got on to 8 different teams. And guys, I'm a huge advocate of this. You guys know that I love when people start and they think really big and they can put themselves into a business owner seat right off the bat or a CEO seat or a COO seat right off the bat. Like, I love that. I preach that because I think it's possible. And I think you can literally go from 0 to a 6-figure month, probably within your first year, honest to God, in your first year, if you know what you're doing. But the reality is for those who don't have those resources and you don't have that level of access and you don't have, let's just say, maybe even the aptitude just yet because you're brand spanking new and you're super young and you're naive and you just don't know what you don't know yet. Cool. Maybe you've never worked in another business. Maybe if you've never had another business, right? Maybe entrepreneurship is new to you. You then, in my opinion, should really leverage working with other people in a JV capacity and joint venture capacity. And so what I did is I knew I was good at sales and I knew I hated cold calling. I knew I didn't want to sit on the phone with unmotivated people. I knew that I basically only wanted to go for the kill on these calls. And so what I did, simple. I went and worked for 8 freaking teams, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 8 different teams. And in that time frame with those 8 teams, here's what's cool. I don't know if I did this intentionally or not. I think it just happened maybe. And in that time frame, I basically found 8 different teams who were all at drastically different scales. Okay. We had some teams that were doing like maybe a deal every month or every other month, like a very small team. And then very small, very new, very young, right? They were kind of just figuring it out. I would say in terms of experience, they were maybe a chapter ahead of me, honestly. And then I had a team all the way at the top that was doing probably 10 to 20 contracts a month, like a real well-oiled machine that was doing 7 figures a year. That team was crushing. They had structure. They had all the things. They had resources. They had like an actual setup to succeed. Daisy, can you not, okay, come on. See, if like I tell Daisy to do to not do anything, she just wants, she takes it as like dad's mad at me. And then I have to let her love on me because otherwise she'll feel guilty and go be sad. So when I went and got on 8 teams, guys, I don't recommend that everyone goes and works on 8 teams. I think that is a tremendously difficult thing to manage. It worked for me because I was broke and desperate. I had burned the boats and I had literally nothing else to do with my time. So I could literally sit in a room. If you guys follow me on hi, thank you. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys know that I have my lair. I call it my lair. It's just this room that is always red. There's no light except for red lights in there. And I will spend 10, 12 hours a day in there just working. And the reason why I'm able to do that now is because in those formative months, right, those really kind of early formative months for me, I spent all that time in there, not cold calling or lead managing, but being a closer on behalf of 8 different teams. And in that time, I literally had 8, 10 hours a day just of pounding the phones, going not for a follow-up or a cold call, but literally having an MAO, having an offer that I made all the teams basically give me, right? Anthony's like, no, dude, here's the thing. I actually had to wake up early, man. Like that was my thing. And like, I hate that now, right? I'm not doing that. But yeah, my big thing is I was even up at, because what I had to do, unfortunately, for those of you guys know, I live in California. I had to wake up early enough for it to be morning on the East Coast, right? And to get my full 10 to 12 hours, like 8 to 12 hours, depending on the day of calls in, I would have to wake up early to take calls in the East Coast in the morning. And then as the day went on, I would literally have to go back in time zones to get all the leads that were coming in from the West Coast. And so I was basically able to span the entire nation in a day, which was really kind of interesting. And it meant that I basically had no life. I had nothing to do. I didn't have friends. I could not enjoy life. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Ideally don't call before 11 a.m. if you can help it. But like, if you were like broke as a joke and like, you've got no other options and you got leads to call, right? If you got tons of leads to call, like here's the thing, calling them is better than not calling them. So like, is before 11 a.m. ideal? No. But if you've got leads to call, 100%, like run through them, do what you got to do. And I'm definitely definitely gonna run out of my voice today. So that was key, right? Working on eight different teams and scoping out a different level of structure between them all. And I don't know that I did this intentionally, but it ended up working out really well for me. Daisy, can you stop looking out the window and like glaring out my screen? Thank you. Yes. See, this is all she wants. Okay. Say hi. Okay. Yeah, if I had Daisy at that time, I would never have been. Jade, no. She gets too much. Honestly, I'm like spoiling her right now. And like me and Ace went out to the beach yesterday, and so I think she was just like traumatized by the fact that I left her home. Okay. So guys, here's what's key is when you work with multiple enterprises and you work with different teams that have different levels of structure and scale. Okay, Bella asked a great question, guys. Yeah, 100%. If you have questions, please ask them. So Bella asked, can you explain the structure a bit more, like you wanted to see who had the best offer? Bella, if you mean in terms of like the 8 different teams, no, I basically was in an interesting position where I knew I had the skill set and I didn't have the money and I didn't have the spend. And I was so broke, I had all the time. I would rather call someone's leads and get a tiny piece of the pie as long as I had leads to call because I had time to fill, right? And I didn't really like trick myself into thinking I had the luxury to kind of, take it slow or be picky. I really put my ego aside of this one. But if you're asking like the comp structure between those teams, I would say this. I had teams that were some of them like I was coming in, and funny enough, this was a really cool precursor for me to understand this. There were teams that were like letting me have 20, 30, 40% of the assignment fee, right? And now knowing everything that I know, I'm like, that's just a team that has no idea what they're doing. Because if they allow a closer to have that much of an assignment fee, they literally have no idea what they're doing the rest of the business. So I had teams doing that. And while that sounds amazing, the reality is those guys were the ones who had the worst leads, the least amount of leads, the least structure in their entire business. They were the most unpredictable. And over enough time, I actually found out that I was wasting most of my time with them. Right? Versus the most high-end team, they were giving me on average between like 12 to 15% to close, but they were completely super structured. They had this dialed in CRM. For me, it was really plug and play, right? I logged in, the leads were queued up with notes, with ARVs, with MAOs, with offer prices. Like they literally did everything for me. They just needed me to get on the phone, convince that person to like me and I didn't even have to get them to sign. I just had to get them to verbally agree, and I would call transfer them over to the in-house TC. And that was like my first time even seeing an in-house TC or an in-house, like, kind of contract person. It was truly, truly just being a closer in nothing but a closing seat. That's all I did. And with those guys, I had 12 to 15%. So it was like the lowest number, like on a commission basis. They had the most leads, the best lead. They set me up to succeed and actually made the most money with them. And then so that was kind of an interesting prospect. And what ended up happening is this. I use those 8 teams to kind of give me leads so I can work on my skill set and refine my skill set. I'm probably about 2-3 months in at this point, right? I would say about 2 months in at this point. And I'd refine the skill set. I'm literally, on the phone 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, 6-7 days a week. I'm probably getting in a minimum 50 to 60 hours a week of call time. Like insanity, absolute insanity. But what I was doing was I was compounding 3, 4, 5 years of experience and sales skills into less than 4 or 5 months. And that was the key. So I was 2 months in, 3 months in. And what ended up happening is I started feeling really competent in my sales ability, and I had started getting real traction. I didn't get my first deal until a month and a half. And it took me about a month and a half to get my first contract. But here's what's crazy. From that month and a half to like the next 30 days after that, I probably had about 20 to 30 deals locked up. Like everything was snowballing and compounding at this massively amazing rate. And so what was cool is I started having this thing called social proof. I had all of these contracts signing, and I had a handful of deals already start closing because they were really quick turnarounds to like hedge funds and all that kind of stuff. If you guys were back around then, you remember how easy it was and quickly you could sell to hedge funds. And so what ended up happening is I started like having some level of public notoriety that like I'm good at this stuff. And so what it allowed me to do is it allowed me to do a very key thing. And I mentioned this earlier, is start leveraging and get better leverage, right? Now I basically said bye to the team that was, at 12 to 15%, even though they were like my best kind of, team to work with. The reason why is because I needed better time, right? Even though the best team to work with, they filled up my schedule with all their leads. The problem is I wanted to not work for 12%. I wanted to work for 30, 40, 50%. And I was in a community at the time where people were like, I'm a closer, give me 50% if I close your seller, right? And people were doing it. And I was like, holy crap, that's a thing. So I was like, oh my God, let me go and do that, right? Let me go and start leveraging my social proof with all these contracts, these deals that are closing. And then let me go and start just being like, I would call it like a freelance closer. And I became a freelance closer. Anthony, would they dispo for you? Yes, that high-end team. Yeah, they basically had everything like dialed in. That's why if you look at like an actual pay scale for like a legit business, if they're only doing commission, right? The best businesses will do salary plus commission, but they're only doing sole commission. Like that 12 to 15% is about spot on for in an acquisitions manager, or just an acquisition specialist, I should say. And so yeah, they did dispo too. But I took that credibility, I took that momentum, and I started going to social media and these communities and mentorship programs that I'm in. And I'm like, hey, I'm a closer. Like, give me all your damn leads and I'll freaking crush them. And I was smart with this. I started really quickly understanding the difference in good leads and bad leads, and good marketing channels and bad marketing channels. And this is another reason why I'm so glad that I went and worked on 8 different teams, because I saw different CRMs that worked. I saw sales systems that worked. I saw marketing channels that really, really sucked because people were being really cheap with their marketing systems. And I saw people crushing at the highest levels with like PPC and $20,000, $30,000 a month in spend. And for a newbie, that was extremely valuable for me to see, because I basically got to see what worked and what didn't at that time. Fun fact, the best teams, they were doing texting. At the time, texting is not completely, but it's mostly dead. It's mostly illegal right now. They were texting, and they were all doing dispo straight, like reverse wholesaling to hedge funds. And like the team that was at the lowest end, they were all cold calling. At the time, they were all cold calling, and they were trying to find deals for their mentor to buy, and their assignment fees were crap. And like just terrible business model. They never made enough money with enough margin to reinvest in the business and scale it. And the other guys were like, they were so dialed in. It was awesome. So what I did is I took that credibility, I took that experience and skill set, and I leveraged it, right, to do what? I'm like, hey, if you got leads, I'm going to call them. But it also allowed me to do something really, really, really awesome. And I've talked about this before, but not too much. I went and got funding partners because I saw what worked. I saw what didn't. I saw constraints. I saw how to alleviate those constraints. And I think I generally have a good knack for business optimization. And I went and got funding partners to basically go spend the money for me, because I was closing deals. But guys, 12%, 15%, 20%, like not a lot of money was actually coming into my pocket at the time. And so I'm like month 3, 3.5, about to come into my 4th month. I'm like, cool, I know how to do it, and I know how to get a lot of hot leads in. I know exactly what it takes. I need more money. And so I basically went and I started marketing myself to get a funding partner in to come spend all the money for me. And fast forward, what we were able to do is really crush texting and PPC. Texting mainly was like the really big one at the time, was crushing. There was no restrictions on it outside of like a few buzzwords that you couldn't say in your text, but it wasn't regulated like it is now. And we were spending, I think that month we spent minimum 18, it's like it was around 17 or $18,000 that month in texting fees. It's like that's with the data, with the skip tracing, with the texting fees. And if you guys know texting back then, guys, that was with like Plivo, not Twilio, but Plivo, which was even cheaper than Twilio. So 18,000 was an extreme amount of texting. And we were able to get a ton of leads. And then we also turned on PPC at the time. PPC was still not nearly as saturated. Like digital marketing is so saturated. It's so expensive right now. Back then it was kind of like, I think it still felt like the Wild West to me back then. And we were able to lock in that month $125,000 in assignment fees that I got almost the bulk share of in terms of net profitability. And the key reason is because I leveraged a skill set and I just maximized the hell out of it. So a lot of people, they think, it's like, hey, you want to be a closer. And they hate that idea because like, I don't want to go work for someone for the next year or for the next 2 years or for the next however goddamn long for 12%, right? Don't. I know I'm not supposed to say that. I know I'm supposed to be like, yeah, guys, like if you go on with the team, you should stay with them for a year and like, don't have an ego and like, just stay there and learn and learn and learn. And like, the reality is depending on the pace that you learn at, if you're like me and you learn really, really like, I'm going to be like, I don't mean to brag here, but I think I learned really fast. And so it was very easy for me to spot what worked and what didn't. And I had enough proof of concept to be able to figure out how to launch it on my own. All I needed was someone else's credit card to swipe. And so when I did that, it worked. And so I think you leverage the skill set. If you're just getting started, if you just want to be a closer, like leverage your skill set, right? Hone the skill set, get into these with certain businesses, 12, 15, 20, 30% with whether you're an underwriter or a TC or a dispo specialist or a sales rep, right? You're an acquisition specialist like me, you're a closer. Cool. Get the knowledge, get some source money for you to sustain your lifestyle so you don't have to make desperate choices again. And depending on like, if you just use your own money, you can launch your own business the way that you want to and not have to use other people's money like I did. The reason why I went and I found like, guys, I didn't find like 20 small lenders or 20 small funding partners and had them like fund small bits of things. No, I found like 2 or 3 really big whales. And like, these are like multi-millionaires who were connected. And like, I didn't know them. I literally just like found them by posting a ton on social media. And like a friend knew them and basically made the connection. These people, they had like restaurants and all these things, had tons of money, and they just wanted a return on the money. Like that was really it. They wanted to learn wholesaling. They wanted to get into the space. And I was their key because I was basically the guinea pig that would do all the work, give them a solid return on their money, and also show them the way. And that was part of the agreement, was showing them the way as well. And so the key is like, start with the teams where you work for them and you're someone's employee. Don't have an ego about it, or like be like almost like a freelancing kind of closer, like I would say like a 1099, like an independent contractor almost. You're not really their employee. That was probably the best description, like 1099 with those teams. Use that leverage to kind of go off on your own as like a true 1099, like freelancer, which is what I did. And I brought in these funding partners to come fund everything. And I made a ton of money in that fourth month. That fourth month with those funding partners is how I did 125,200. It was a 125,250 was like the exact number. And I got to keep a ton of that money. And then from there, guys, I had the proof of concept. I knew how to spend the money. I had done it for other people. I had done it for myself, right? And here's the kicker. I had so much money just sitting there in a stockpile. I didn't need funding partners ever again. I really didn't. And so I used that money to do what? Put myself in a better mastermind room, better mentorship rooms. My first year and a half of doing this business, I actually just like took the bare minimum needed out of the business to pay bills. And then everything else, like 100% of my profit, I put right back into reinvesting in the business or in masterminding and mentorship. Like I've spent at least $177,000 right now. Like to this day, I've spent 177 grand in masterminding, mentorship, CEO coaching, just stuff like that. And so that was key. And over that time, what ended up happening is I got really well connected, like really well connected with all these guys doing millions and millions and millions. And the cool thing is my trajectory and my speed is what attracted them to me, or attracted me to them, I should say. I don't know. Them to me, them to me. Yeah, them to me. And they wanted to like look after me. They wanted to pour into me more because they saw the trajectory and the growth rate. And so what ended up happening is they started opening up more doors and they started showing me the game at the highest levels. And then I quickly went from, like, you guys will see this. If you guys are in some communities that I've been in, you'll notice that like I got in as like a solo kind of solopreneur. And like I went from solopreneur to CEO really, really, really fast. And it was because I skipped all the bullshit of needing to stay in a season for very long. And I think that's one of the biggest kind of fallacies out there, is that like if you're an employee for someone, you need to work for them for years. Or if you're like a freelancing closer, you should be a freelancing closer for like a year or 2 or 3 or 4. And I'm like, that's how you just don't grow. And so that was a big thing. Oh my God, there's questions that I didn't get to. I'm so sorry. What was the most expensive lesson mistake you've learned in business? Also, what did you solve? What did you do to solve this problem? Ooh, that's a good one. I would say this. This one was expensive. I've lost money in real estate 100% in doing deals. And I've never bought a bad deal. I'll say that. I've never bought a bad deal, which I'm super stoked on. Have definitely lost money taking risks on mentorships and mastermindings and business models and marketing channels. I've absolutely lost tons of money on like marketing. Like I've spent money intentionally to know how not to spend money in several marketing channels, especially like PPC. Like you got to spend money to know where not to spend money. Like you're going to spend money knowing you're going to lose it, so you can know how to not lose it. It's very interesting. But I would say the most expensive lesson, I'm going to go outside of a numeric value, was partnering. I think it's also one of the best lessons I've ever learned. Because I was in a community that I was in, this community told me this goddamn lie, and I just believed it. And it's that you should always squat up. Like, don't get me wrong, guys. Like I got my start thanks to squatting up and JVing, right? But when I was ready to be a CEO and a business owner, I was convinced that I couldn't do it alone, even though I had the experience, the skill set, the know-how, and I've done it for other people, right? But I was basically in an echo chamber that told me that you basically need a partner at all times. If you don't have a partner, you're going to fail, because this book called Rocket Fuel, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not trashing on Rocket Fuel. I think it's a great book, but I think that there are some business models that you absolutely don't need a partner in. And if you think you do, you've been lied to, or you just don't know how to hire. And I will die on this hill, Matt. And that hill is, you only partner because you don't know how to properly hire. And so I got put into a partnership that was really awesome at first, because I was listening to all my mentors at the time, and it was honestly just the wrong mentors. Or I shouldn't say that. They were the right mentors, but I didn't realize that I wasn't their avatar anymore. I had graduated, and I should have been listening to other mentors and other coaches, but I was still listening to the guy, or the folks who were speaking to newbies, and I wasn't a newbie anymore, right? So you tell newbies they should always partner. You tell newbies they should always squat up. But at a certain time, objectively, like, Matt, you're a guy, like, because I know you're someone who should not be partnering if you were to start a wholesale company. You know enough. You know enough. You literally know more than enough to not have to partner. And the only reason you would partner is because you just want to take a shortcut, and that shortcut usually is not worth it in the long run when we look at wholesale partnerships. In fact, I would say most wholesale partnerships completely fizzle out and die. And to this day, I've never seen a wholesale partnership work out where there was 3 or more partners. Never seen it work. They all crash and burn. And so what I did is I partnered because this echo chamber was telling me to. And funny enough, the partnership worked really well for the business, right? This person was a perfect integrator to my visionary. We had very similar alignments and goals, and our aptitudes were like phenomenal. He was an extremely high performer in his regard, as I was in my regard. And we crushed so quick, so fast. We built out all these amazing things. And what ended up happening is, and this is to answer your question, I didn't get to see, there was a massive core value misalignment. And this is not something that you can scope out ahead of time. It's not. You literally have to become really close with someone to like really learn the stuff, like the skeletons in their closet, right? Everyone like seems like they're a good culture, core value fit up front because everyone espouses phenomenal core values up front. But the reality is what? When you get to really know someone and like really, quote unquote, get in bed with someone, you see the skeletons they have in the closet, they bring them out. And so this person, not going to get too much into it, but they had a massive issue with being loyal to their partner in the romantic relationship. I'm just going to leave it at that. And that finding that out, like, goes against every like fiber of my being. I was completely raised the opposite way. It's just not something that I understand. It's not something that I support, right? But I kind of had this interesting like dilemma of like, is this even my business? Right? Should I even have a say on this? Is this something I'm even allowed to have an opinion on? Or is it like your life? What happens behind closed doors is on you. We're here for business. We crush at business and that's it. And here's what ended up happening, guys. Like I kind of like, it was like a tumultuous time for me internally where I had to basically decide if this was like a make it or break it. I love that. Larry Lyon, what's up, dude? He says, Sam, quit telling people about my love life. That's great. Friggin' Larry. Good to see you, man. Larry, I haven't heard from you in a while, man. Good to see you. And so what ended up happening is I had this like tumultuous time trying to figure out like, am I okay with this? Does this bug me? Because internally it was like, I don't like that, right? Like when you're with your friends and you see them doing something they're not supposed to be doing, and you're like, should I be covering for them? Or like, it's weird. And I had all these people around me telling me, it's like, dude, it's business. Like, stick to business. They haven't screwed you over. Like, sure, they've cheated on their spouse or their partner, but they haven't cheated on you, right? As a business partner. And then it wasn't until Jonah, if you guys know Jonah Corchin, I literally spent a whole day in Las Vegas walking around the strip in Las Vegas with Jonah Corchin. This was like 2 years ago. And Jonah, I was telling him all this and he was like being a counselor to me. So if you guys talk to Jonah, tell him I said I love him and he's amazing. And I actually owe him a lot for this. I talked to Jonah Corchin and he's like, hey, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're going to cheat on your spouse, you're going to cheat on your partner. It's just a matter of time. You're going to look for shortcuts. You're going to look to cut people out. It's a core value, innate process that people have. And then Logan Manzanares, who, if you guys have been following me for a long time, Logan's not someone I talk about, a lot on a day-to-day basis, but Logan and I used to have a podcast. We still do. It's called The Origin Story. It's a phenomenal podcast. And Logan, I sat with him and he's someone that I look up to. He's got a very healthy, thriving marriage and family. So he's someone I look up to in that regard. And he said, Sam, the best thing you can do is basically walk away from this because this type of stuff, it's only a matter of time before it backfires on you. But the true reality of it is it's also toxifying your mental capacity. It's like it's weighing down on you. It's hurting your ability to be potent in the moment. And so I wish, Matt, the most expensive lesson to sum it up, man, is I wish that I knew right off the bat that core values were a thing. They matter, and they matter probably as much as finances do, and that mental stress can completely kill your business, probably more than just like being bad with money. Like being bad with money, like you can just like, do profit first and like get good at it. You can take an accounting class and get good at it. But like when you're in a partnership and your partner is doing shady shit, like that stuff will toxify everything around them. It's literally only a matter of time. And so that was a big lesson for me to learn. So now I only partner with people who are extremely core value oriented. I chatted with Chris Crone. If you guys know Chris Crone, he's amazing. I chatted with Chris Crone for like 5 minutes about this. And he has like, at the time he had like 23 mentors and he had like 100 something businesses, crazy. And he had tons of partners. And he said this, and it was like my confirmation. He said, I care very much about what my partners do, like behind the scenes. Like I care because whatever they do, it's only a matter of time before it gets brought out to light. And when the public sees it, by association, I am guilty. Like that's just the case. By association, you are guilty. And one of my mentors, Pace Morby, even told me this, like he drilled this into my head that association will kill you if it's with the wrong people. So, okay. Bella, where can I find this team? Well, what were we doing in the beginning? DTA foreclosure. So Bella, that team was, I'm assuming you're talking about the team that was like the highest level. They were doing nothing but they were doing some PPC, but they mastered text outreach and just initial outreach, real quick outreach to niche county stuff, like niche courthouse stuff. So not DTA. They weren't doing direct to agent. Wasn't really a big thing at the time in wholesale. Like it really wasn't. They were crushing foreclosure. I learned foreclosure because of them. Anthony, why is texting dead? So a law has been passed by the FCC or FTC. I can't remember. I always forget what they're called. But basically, you need to have a prior opt-in by the person to text them. So you can't just it's known as cold texting, right? So Anthony, if you're a seller and I'm a wholesaler and you and I have never chatted, it is actually against the law for me to just cold text you and say, hey, do you want to sell your home, right? Does this mean that people aren't doing texting? No, it's tons of people still texting. They don't give a shit. It's risk tolerance for them. Now, the legal way now, by the letter of the law, is I would need you to like go on my website, right, fill in a form, some form of opt-in where you are basically saying, yes, I am agreeing to you text blasting me or emailing me or doing outreach to me. So no opt-in, cold texting is technically illegal. Okay, Bella, with the way you structure your current business, is it what you learned with Tiffany's program? Love Tiffany High, love her program. I think Tiffany High has one of the best, if not the best, wholesale kind of product mentorship coaching in the industry. But no, if you look at, to be fully honest, there's a lot of influence there, I should say, and a lot of insight and influence that I got from her directly, also with my one-on-one coach on their team, who I'm still really good friends with. I love that guy. But I basically took a lot of their structure that I liked, and their business, I should say this, their business fundamentally, and the way they coach is very specific to their business. So they run their wholesale business a certain way. They run their flipping business a certain way, and their coaching is directly reflective on that, right? It's directly reflective to that. And I wanted my business to look a little bit differently. Like one of the big things with Tiffany, she usually uses me as an example because I think loves talking shit about my way of doing it. They're in person. They have an in-person team and they're in their backyard. And I vehemently do not want to be in my backyard. And I vehemently, at the time, didn't want to run an in-person team. I'm like, I want to be virtual. I want to be nationwide. I don't want to have to go into a physical office to meet my team. And a lot of Tiffany's processes and structure are based on that type of model because it's a damn good model. They make like 3, 4, 5 million a year with that model. They're some of the best, most dialed-in operators in the country. So it works. Don't get me wrong. It just wasn't something that I wanted to do for me. So I would say I took what I needed from them and implemented it, made it my own, kind of, just really kind of made it applicable to how I wanted my business to look. And the whole thing with my business is really kind of catered towards, it's set up for me to live my life on my terms. And so like my business is directly kind of built in a way where it gives me the freedom to go do whatever the hell I want when I want. Now, if you guys follow me on social media, you're like, Sam, all you do is lock yourself in a room and work all day. That's because it's what I want to do. So, but that doesn't mean like I can't just go disappear and like go to, the beach for 5 days with my dog and like not pick up my phone. I can still do that too. Anthony, got in the right rooms. Yep. I would say this, man. There's one, I was talking to one of my buddies, and this friend of mine, he and I got started in the exact same community, the exact same like kind of real estate investment community. And I quickly graduated out of that room, and he quickly graduated out of that room too. Probably within about a year of me graduating out of it and just kind of moving on doing my own thing, he kind of did the same thing. And he's done some really special things. He's gotten really well connected, and he's doing his own thing now. And he and I were talking the other day, and we were talking about how like, man, there's so many people who like were there when we were there. They were there before him and I, and they're still there. And they're not making any more money. And they're still like, they're like begging for deals and, constantly going live in other people's communities, doing Zooms in other people's communities for free. Cause, they're really hoping they can get like a transaction out of it because they don't have businesses. And so I think the biggest thing, Anthony, is always understanding that the truth is this. If you ever have, I'm going to be honest here, if you ever have a coach or an influencer or a mentor, um, basically create a room and tell you that it's a room that you're going to be in for the rest of your life, it doesn't exist. Every room, every mentorship, every mastermind has a target avatar, right? And that target avatar is like who they are, right? Like how much money, where are they at in terms of their skill and experience. The reality is if you're in a mentorship or a program where all you're doing is learning how to, do a deal or do your first deal, 5 years later, you should not still be like, that should not be the place that you spend your time. You should be like, you should have graduated, become a CEO, become a business owner, removed yourself from business, and are now, potentially looking at like, are you buying multifamily? Are you doing self-storage? You should be graduating to the next level, and there is another room for the next level. And so, and how do you know this? You can actually look and like really quickly find out how many deals the average person in a room is doing. You will see the average kind of revenue they make. And so like that room is really kind of interesting. Me and my buddy were talking about it, and we're like, man, why don't people graduate from that room? Like, why are people so hell-bent on staying there? And it was really kind of interesting that they think it's a room for life. And like, that's the interesting thing. You guys went to kindergarten and then you left it when there was nothing left to learn. You went to elementary school and you left it when there was nothing left to learn, or you learned everything that you needed, right, to get to the next level. Same thing with middle school, same thing with high school. For me, I have an undergraduate degree. I went to college, I have a 4-year degree from a university. Guess what? After my 4-year degree, I went and got a master's. I went and got an executive master's of business administration. So I got an EMBA, an executive MBA from Fresno State University. I graduated summa cum laude with all these things, at least in the college side. And the interesting thing is like, you don't go back. I didn't go back to high school because like it felt comfy. And so now I joined a new mastermind recently where the average person, like lower end of the spectrum, is doing about $1 million a year minimum. And the higher end of the average kind of person is doing about 15 million. And then next year, I'm going to be joining a mastermind that's going to be awesome. The minimum requirement to even apply is between 5 to 6 million a year. Like if you're not doing 5 to 6 million a year, like they won't even consider the application. And so every step of the way, you get into a room where the average number is new and higher and higher and higher. And that's where you spend your time. You keep doing that, you will keep growing, like guaranteed. Anthony, so Astro is illegal. I think you might mean Astro Blaster. And if that's what you mean, I'm going to be clear with that. Astro Blaster is a Go High Level based CRM. And I know they do automated text outreach, because it's Go High Level, and Go High Level has chatbots and AI chatbots that can do the outreach for you. All I'm going to say is this: by the law, I'm not commenting on Astro or any specific product. I would say this: by the law, it is illegal to be marketing and texting people who you do not have a prior opt-in for. It is up to you to decide. Like, guys, like straight up, like you guys cold call and message people on the federal do not call list all the time. We've all been doing it. Like I used to do that all the time too. Now, it's risk tolerance, right? What risk tolerance do you have? Is that potential fine going to stop you from doing the marketing? That's up to you to decide. And you as a business owner have to discern whether or not that's it. So, okay, we've got like 5 minutes left. Let's get some last minute questions in. If you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. Oh, guys, I should always say this. I always forget to say this. If you're on Facebook, we cannot see your comments on Facebook. We only see your comments if you're on YouTube. Fun fact, because we use StreamYard, and StreamYard only shows YouTube comments. Okay, let's do this. Okay, give me 1 second. Trevor, I love you. I'm not going to answer that question live. Daniel Coronel asks, what's your take on door knocking pre-foreclosures? I hate it. I think it's like full transparency, guys. Today it's me. Marlon's a huge advocate of it. But that is, that's Marlon's take on things. I'll say this. I've scaled wholesale. I crush wholesale. We do tons of wholesale. Like we've got over 20 deals in escrow right now. Like we do tons of it. And I've scaled a lot of marketing channels. In my opinion, this is my experience, my opinion. Does door knocking pre-foreclosures crush? Hell yeah, it does. Hell yeah, it does. It absolutely does. If you're new and you're getting started, 1,000%. It's really potent. If you guys were on live with me and Marlon, I think like last week, the week before, Marlon's a massive advocate for that. He's like, go pull pre-foreclosures and go door knock them. Like, yes, it's really cheap, but it's also extremely hard. I would say if there's one thing that I have seen the least amount of consistency with, I would say I'm going to be very careful to say this. I know I'm like contradicting a lot of gurus here, but a lot of gurus are trying to sell you courses and coaching programs. I'll say this. I think door knocking is wonderfully powerful because I think that if you can get in front of the right data set really early, I believe in pre-foreclosure. I think pre-foreclosure and foreclosure targeting is phenomenal, especially if you're getting directly from the source. Super fantastic. I only do niche marketing. Now, door knocking, I think is one of those things that's really hard to sustain. If you're a newbie and you haven't had door knocking experience, you weren't in pest control or lawn care or solar, and you're not used to having doors being slammed in your face, then it is a brutal thing to do. It is hard to sustain. Depending on where you're at in the country, it can be 100 goddamn degrees. And like for the amount of people who tout door knocking from the roof, I would say there's about 1 million people equally who just stopped door knocking because like it's just not fun and it's not very sustainable. And like, don't get me wrong, there's people who do it. There's people who crush it. I've just never seen a single one of them scale door knocking to this day. I don't know a single team personally, and I could be wrong. I'm sure there's some out there, but out of all the big guys who behind closed doors, I know their businesses. I know that they're doing well over $250,000 a month, doing several seven figures. I've yet to meet a team that has consistently run door knocking and optimized the hell out of it in wholesale. Solar, yes. Lawn care, yes. Pest control, yes. Real estate wholesale, not so much. So Daniel, I should say this. I should have prefaced this. My thing is this. I only like to talk to newbies on what you should do as like a newbie tactic so that you can get your first bit of money and like reinvest it and attain higher leverage. Like starting with door knocking, great. Do I think that door knocking is sustainable and something that can be your primary business model? It can. Do I know a ton of people doing that who've done it and it's been proven over and over and over and over again that it actually works? Not many, truly not many. But do I know tons of people that have done that with PPC, PPL, texting, direct mail, cold call? Hell yeah, because it's easy to outsource all of those things. So yeah. And fun fact, I will say this. Daniel, I'm going to say this, I'm going to die on this hill. Most of the people who are preaching door knocking are people who still door knock themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to ask yourself, do I want to be like them? Pace Morby taught me a phenomenal lesson. And he's told me this publicly and privately over and over and over again, one-on-one. He's told me, never take advice from people who are living their lives in a way you don't want to live yours. And I look at all the people who are preaching door knocking from the rooftops. They're usually selling you some type of course around door knocking, or B, they themselves door knock. And it's like the lifeblood of their business. And they don't even have like a door knocking team. It's just like them. Like, not how I want to live my business. I want to be a CEO and I want to have a business that's scalable and has leverage. What are you using to organize your, yeah. And guys, okay, I'm going to go back to this one. This one pisses me off. This is why I need my own podcast. So I don't like this. Doesn't, guys, just know that these views are not reflective of Marlon's views or Alejandro's views. These are Sam Singh's views and Sam Singh's alone. I like leverage. I like leverage and scalability. I think door knocking has a lack of leverage. And I think the world right now, thanks to the internet, has too many people telling you to do a bunch of dumb shit that doesn't give you a ton of leverage. Like door knock in the beginning, like you remember how I like I was a closer for 8 teams. I didn't do that for 6 months, right? I did that for like 2 months, 2.5 months. And then I got my budget and like I dipped and did my own thing and I constantly upgrade leverage. I think door knocking is great. Don't stick around. Don't do it for too long. What are you using to organize your operations, like storing a database of SOPs, KPIs, tasks / company productivities? So we use killer KPIs, which is a masterclass I did. There's a corresponding killer KPI spreadsheet, which I've gone over on the stream several times. And it basically is the lifeblood of the analysis of the business, and it lets me know at any moment in time where we're at. Are we healthy? Are we on track? Are we going to make the money we want to make? And every time I do quarter for the quarter, where I show you how to make $250,000 in a quarter of the year, we actually go over the killer KPI spreadsheet. So Josh, let me know if you want, we could do that next week. I would love to do that. We haven't done quarter for the quarter in a minute. Brad, if you were starting your business today, where would you spend your time, money, and marketing considering the texting regulations and saturation of PPC? Digital inbound has become massively saturated and expensive and is also being regulated. So PPL. So Brad, if you didn't see it 2 weeks ago, I think, go to my YouTube channel, hit the button that says live, because if you go to my videos, it's not gonna be anything there, but if you hit live, there'll be like a shit ton of stuff. A few videos ago, you'll see one that's titled "The Government is Banning Entrepreneurship" or Entrepreneurs, something like that. There's one that says something about government bans. I go over that, where I go over regulations specifically on PPL, so which is pay-per-lead. Pay-per-lead is being regulated, and that's going to have very large ramifications on the entire digital ad space. I think digital ads are becoming more saturated, more competitive. There's a lot more shitty leads coming out because wholesalers are filling out leads. There's a lot of scams in there too. So I think PPC and digital inbound is just not going to stick around very long. We don't do texting outside of follow-ups, but we've had initial contact. So we use texting as a follow-up metric, not as a cold outreach method, because that's illegal and I don't want to get fined. It's not worth it for me to get fined. And so all the marketing we do is very nuanced and very niche. So we only do niche marketing to niche data pools, and like, that's it. I don't mess with digital inbound. It just, juice ain't worth the squeeze anymore. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate that. TTP question mark. I don't know what that question necessarily means. Are you a Podio guy or another CRM? My Podio, and it seems to be a bug machine. Bro, I used to be a massive advocate for Podio in the beginning because I think it was, back then it was actually cheap. I don't think, or free. I don't think it's free anymore. I think Podio is a dinosaur and I don't like it. So that's just it. I think there's tremendously better CRMs. I think that if you're a wholesaler or a marketer, you should go use a Go High Level product in the beginning. And I think Go High Level is fantastic. I think that if you can obviously go and use someone's white label of a Go High Level, and we've seen like really cheap Go High Levels that are white labels, guys. There's even a few Go High Level white label companies out there that like say that I endorse them, and they have fake quotes of me on their websites that I never actually said, which is really kind of interesting. And so I love Go High Level. I think it's phenomenal. I love Go High Level white labels if they're made by the right developer. And so I'm not going to speak too much on that, but master Go High Level, because it's a sales and marketing based CRM, is made for agencies like in digital ad space, and wholesaling is all marketing and sales. And then eventually you will hit a point, Hayes, where you have grown your team so much that you have to leave Go High Level for certain business models. So I own a couple businesses, and we moved our wholesale operation completely off of Go High Level right now. And it was a long time coming. We ran into constraints that are very specific to when you start scaling and hitting really heavy scale constraints, like with onboarding personnel, with SOPs. There's just a lot of little tiny things that you will be heavily constrained on. And so I had to leave Go High Level for that. I hope to come back to it, but the only way I would come back to Go High Level is if I made the white label myself, and that's not something I want to do. Doris, hi, I joined Substitute recently through Larry Parsons. I'm a newbie in this REI business. What would you suggest I should learn first? Come watch your live. He said you are the GOAT. Oh, sweet. Oh, we love Larry the Lion, dude. Larry the Lion is one of my favorite stories in all of real estate. And fun fact, he actually got his first deal working with us, which was kind of cool. That's a tough one, Doris. I can't give you an honest answer because I don't, and no one on a live should be able to give you an honest answer to this, because they don't know enough about you, about your personality, your tolerances, your resources, or your skill sets. I don't know enough about you yet to be able to give you an answer to that. Don't worry. I have a signature masterclass. It's actually going to be specific to people who are brand spanking new. It's going to be called Get Plugged In. Shit, I should not have mentioned that. That was supposed to be a secret. It's okay. That's going to stay tuned to my social media. It's going to be here. Go follow me on Instagram, and then we'll break that down. Gotcha. So is that a spreadsheet, killer KPIs, frameworks built on top of a platform like ClickUp or Notion? Or are you just using Google Sheets? Great question, Josh. So the frameworks, it doesn't matter, right? Like the tool, I think you're harping too much on the tool because the framework is all that matters. Framework, it base functionality. So Notion can effectively do almost all the same shit that Google Sheets can do. Like if you really master Notion and Notion formulas, you can pretty much program it to do the same stuff that Google Sheets does or Excel does. I don't use ClickUp. I've never used ClickUp, so I can't comment on that. But we do love Notion, and we've built some stuff on Notion. We just never stuck with it. The Google Sheet stuff for us works really, really well. And the killer KPI thing that I gave away, it's kind of like a free giveaway thing. I built that. I took it off of Notion, programmed it into a Google Sheet to make it super, super simple. And it's almost not even like a KPI tracker. It's almost like a guide. It's like an all-intensive guide. TTP door knocking, not successful. I think TTP door knocking is successful. I just don't like it as a business model in the long run because it is low leverage. I think it's a great way to get your first deal. I think it's a great way to get your first 10, 15, 20 deals. But if you guys know me, I'm all about how quickly can we become a CEO, outsource our entire business so it doesn't take us 5 guys. I own 2 7-figure businesses, and I did that in less than 3 years. The whole idea that you need to be like TTP door knocking, love TTP, but door knocking specifically, like it is so hard to scale that. You will have so much turnover. You don't believe me? Two of my biggest mentors run $100 million plus roofing business, and they only do door knocking. And those roofing guys are doing 100 million plus in roofing. Trust me, they're better at door knocking than anyone in the world of wholesale. And they'll be the first ones to tell you. They're the ones who do it the best. It's the only thing they do. They're masters of it. They freaking mock door knock. They role play door knock every day before they go in door knock. And they'll be the first ones to tell you that like it is the highest churn in terms of your marketing. Like you do that as your marketing channel, you cannot hold a team. Hayes, shoot me a DM on Instagram and then tell me what's going on, and hopefully I can give you some more specific insight. Larry was in the hospital and was still grinding it out while on the hospital bed. Larry's the goat. Larry, dude, what the hell, man? I hope you're okay, dude. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm still in the hospital, Josh. Day 37. I sent out 2 seller finance offers today after calling them in Closures Cafe. Dude, congratulations, man. I had no idea. I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope you're doing well, bro. And 100% keep crushing and keep doing offers, dude. Like that's it. If you can keep doing that, you can keep your head in the game while your body is trying to get you out of the game. Like that's how you stay in it. Send me advice on SOP for my mega LOI blaster team. That sounds like a mess. Full transparency, bro. I'm going to tell you right now, Larry, because you remember the DTA kind of giant team that we had, the social experiment that we had. I'm glad I did that. I'm really glad I did that because it was a very big masterclass for me as a CEO to understand how to hire, how to fire, how to train, how to retain talent. And my one big takeaway from that is I will never do anything like that ever again. And I really understand who everyone ahead of me will never do something like that. I don't know what a mega LOI. I know what an LOI blaster is. I don't know about a mega with a capital M. Is that like a new product? If it is, I don't know anything about it. LOIs, the problem with LOI blasting is that it's difficult and it's messy and they're very often non-curated. But SOPing your business, bro, is very simple. It is very simple. I would go back and Larry, there's a video that I did not too long ago. It was a Think Big. So, and you guys know on Think Big, I don't really get to go for, 5 hours like I do in master classes. And I really get to go in depth because it's free YouTube stuff. But Larry, go back a couple weeks on this, and there's going to be a Think Big episode titled How to Automate Your Business. Go watch that one because it's all about hiring, firing, training, and retaining people. And then go watch episodes 73 and 74 of Think Big. It's all about building an acquisition team, filling out an org chart, giving them responsibilities, hiring and delegating the right way. I think that'll fill in a lot of those gaps for you. Okay, guys, I appreciate you. We are 10 minutes overboard. So real quick, if you guys got value, I hope you did. Subscribe, please. I think that's important. And then most important thing, guys, is show up next week. And do me a huge favor. On DM, on Instagram, I think it says it here somewhere, at Arch Sam Singh, ARCH Sam Singh. Shoot me a DM sometime this week and let me know what you guys want more of. Even if that's something hyper tactical, like I am so down to do those episodes. I just need to know what constraints you're running into in your business. So let me know the constraints you are specifically having in your business. Be as detailed as possible because hopefully I can create something that really helps, and we'll go over that next week. But with that being said, you guys are amazing. I appreciate you, and I will see y'all next week. Peace.